Welcome to this course Econometrics 2 in the Research Master Economics here at Tilburg University. The overall goal of our program is to make you a productive researcher. An intermediate goal is that you write a great job market paper and of course that you land a great first job. The most important choices you will have to make is to choose a field, a topic, to choose a research question, and of course to choose a supervisor. For that, my recommendation is that you look at potential supervisors' placement records, talk to their current students, look at his or her current research productivity, look at his or her traveling activity and academic background, so where this person has been. Now, this course here is part of the Ph.D. program and of the Ph.D. core. And the core consists of, at least traditionally, micro, macro, and econometrics. And the goal of the core courses is to give you some general background, teach you the foundation that everybody has who does economic research, at least at academic institutions. Now, one thing I would like to say from the very beginning, though, is that what you learn now in the core is not representative of research interests in economics these days. So what we teach you here in the core are, to some extent at least, very classical topics and results. And you can think of it like a toolbox. And what's important is that more or less everybody uses the same tools. So for that reason, we also stick to that. So that's a form of coordination. To show you a little bit of evidence supporting this, what you see here is a figure taken from a publication by Dan Hammermesh in the Journal of Economic Literature that was visualized by Bloomberg View. And what you see here is how economics has changed, how economic research has changed over time. The light blue area, that's theory. The light gray area, that is theory with simulation. And what you see is that it peaked in the early 80s. Then almost 2/3 of articles in top economics journals were actually theory, and a few of them theory with simulation. But since then, this has gone down. And what has gone up is empirical work. So the dark gray area, that's with borrowed data or publicly available data or data that somebody else has collected. And then there's something new coming. This is the dark blue area, that is proprietary data, own data. So more and more people have gotten access to great data sets or collected data themselves and have used them for economic research. And then there's a little green thing also increasing actually since the 80s, 90s, and that is experiments. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that empirical work is really important in economics, right? So theory is definitely important and methods, but when you look at articles published in top econ journals, then many of them are actually empirical. Another way to look at this is to look at job listings. This is what I've done here. So there is this website called Econ Job Market, and what you find there is statistics, simply statistics on listings. And what I've done here is I've aggregated them. So this is data that I've accessed in 2016, and then I've formed broad categories. So some job listings are just any field, right? So it wouldn't say what kind of person people are looking for. Then you have behavioral and experimental economics, methods, applied micro and macro. And what you see is that the biggest chunk of jobs, they come in applied micro, and applied micro is, in a broad sense, empirical work. Sometimes empirical work together with theory, but distinct from methods. Methods here includes econometrics, and about a third of those jobs will be in econometric theory. So what you can take away from this is that there are many jobs where you will do empirical work, and this is also no surprise, because also many jobs of our students that they will have are gonna involve some form of data analysis and some form of empirical work, and the aim is to mirror that in terms of faculty members. I've told you that an intermediate goal is to land a great job, so it's always interesting to look at some data in that respect too. So many of you might not know what a great research performance is, or what kind of people you're competing with. So what's interesting there is this table here that I've taken from a paper by Conley and Under in 2014 in the Journal of Economic Perspectives. And what this shows you is how many publications PhD graduates have 6 years after the PhD. Okay, so let me zoom in here. So the first university is Harvard. What you see here is that from Harvard, the average cohort size, average PhD cohort size is 30.5, and about 2/3 of these guys have been publishing at all, which is actually a lot as compared to other programs. So in other programs, when I just go down, it goes to 40%. So that's very normal that not all people get academic jobs later on, and not all people publish later on. So then here, what is the measure of publication success, of the quantity of published papers? That is here AER equivalent publications. Okay, so and this can be calculated once you use a measure that describes how good a publication in a particular journal is. So think here of things like impact factors. If you don't know what that is, that's not really important at this point. Good. So what this shows you is that the 80th percentile of the publications for one cohort would be 0.7. So that's 0.7 AER equivalent publications. So you have a cohort size of 30. The 80th percentile would then mean that it's the 6th best guy out of 30 from Harvard, and that person would on average publish 0.7 AER equivalent papers. Okay, so that is obviously a really good performance, no doubt about that. And you shouldn't be scared because of this, but it gives you a little bit of context what other people are doing who are also going for a PhD, and how well they are doing afterwards. Good. So what do we do in this course? This is a methods course. What we do here very explicitly is to take an applied perspective. And I'm teaching here the first half of this course, and what we do here is to bring together economic theory and econometric methods, and you can call this the structural approach. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to be able to cover everything there is to the structural approach, but you're going to get some ideas about it in this course, and we lay the foundation for other courses that will follow later on, in particular field courses. In the second half, we teach you how to take a less structural approach. Here we have a strong focus on estimating causal effects in the presence of selection, endogeneity, or put differently, when exogeneity doesn't hold, and at the same time with a focus on heterogeneity. And this is the whole treatment effects literature, if you like, to put it like this. Good. So for the first half, I've split this into 4 parts, and they're going to be separate videos in general for the sub bullet points here. So we're starting with some preliminaries. So in the first item, models, estimators, and Monte Carlo studies, the aim is just to bring us all on the same page. And then I'm going to quickly review maximum likelihood estimation, because in fact, this is going to be the approach to estimation that we take in this first half of the course. In the second half of the course, it will be more like OLS and IV estimation. Maximum likelihood estimation is more prominent here because we're going to formulate models and we're going to estimate these models. And the traditional way of doing that, or one traditional way of doing that, is maximum likelihood estimation. Good. The second part is entitled binary and order choice. So binary choice is when you have a binary variable on the left-hand side, right? You want to explain a 0-1 decision, let's say, whether or not people go to college, whether or not people have children, whether or not people work, etc., etc. So we're going to talk about this specifically in terms of the logit model. Then we're going to look also at more general models, and here actually we're also going to see some other estimators other than maximum likelihood. And a direct extension of binary choice models is order choice models. So we're going to look into order choice. In passing, we're going to introduce so-called random coefficients. So think of everybody having a different parameter, and what we're going to do is we're going to estimate other parameters that describe the distribution of these individual specific parameters. So we're going to assume, for instance, that the parameters are normally distributed across individuals, so we're going to estimate the mean and the variance of that normal distribution for the beta parameter. Then in the third part, we're going to look at multinomial choice. So multinomial choice is choice between alternatives that do not have the same ordering for all individuals. Okay, so order choice, the ordering would be the same for everybody in the second part. So think of it as something that we can all agree on in terms of an ordering, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, right? So that's an ordering that everybody can agree on, or an ordering for satisfaction scores, so life satisfaction scores. Multinomial choice, here you can think about think of things like brand choice. So brand choice, you have a few alternatives, and you order them in terms of the utility they give you, and this ordering might be different for different individuals, and this is what these models capture. The benchmark model is the multinomial logit model, and then we're going to look at generalizations as well. The last topic then, number 4, is censoring and truncation. That's a very, very classical topic in econometrics. I've put it here as the last topic because it very, very nicely establishes a connection actually to the second half of this course. In the second half, as I said, we're going to study endogeneity, failures of exogeneity, and that can be thought of in terms of selection, and selection is actually part of censoring and truncation. And we're going to talk about that. The classical model here is the Tobit model. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to generalize. In general, I'm gonna try to relate back to very, very classical contributions in econometrics, and in particular those that lie at the intersection between econometric theory and economic theory. So this is the angle that we'll have in this first half of the course. What is the format? You're watching a video right now, so we're going to have videos. These videos are going to be online. You can watch them at your convenience, but the idea is that you watch them before we have each week a so-called Q&A session. That Q&A session will take place on Zoom. I'm not going to record these Q&A sessions, so you'll have to come there and participate. So here you can ask questions. I'm not going to repeat all the material that is already in the video. You can here in an interactive way ask questions, and we can discuss things that were not clear to you from watching the lecture. Then they're going to be the second thing that takes place each week is a lab session, again on Zoom with our teaching assistant. And in the lab session, we're going to discuss in general graded homework assignments. So one thing you will have to do is to hand in these graded homework assignments before the lab session starts. And then in the lab session, they're being discussed. And these are going to be graded, and that's going to be part of your grade for the course. What are the resources? What can you use? So obviously the videos, and then next to the videos, the slides. The slides are going to be online. Then I've put together a set of lecture notes that fit exactly to these slides in terms of notation and everything. So I highly recommend reading those, in particular when you're working on the homework assignments. The material that we're covering here in this course is in chapter 5 and 6. So altogether it's, for this first half of the course, 80 pages. And on these 80 pages, so these are not like, with tiny text, but reasonably spaced 80 pages. And on top of that, in chapter 2, there's a more general introduction that I recommend you to have a look at. Chapter 3 is on identification, so it's really, really a good idea to read that. I can highly recommend that. I'm just not going to have time to cover all of this material in this course, but this might change the way you're thinking about empirical work, and might really benefit you later on. Chapter 4 reviews maximum likelihood estimation. So this is a more extensive treatment of what we're going to do here. So if you haven't seen that really before, then I would recommend that you read that too. And it also talks about the generalized method of moments. Then on top of that, there's selected articles that I will refer to. There is the book by Cameron and Trivedi that fits kind of well to this course, but it's not required reading. So what is recommended and in some sense required reading is the lecture notes. So for that reason, I've put the book here in parentheses. And if you want to broaden your perspective, read a little something about what I've been thinking, you can go to my blog that I don't maintain anymore at this point. So these days it's more like micro-blogging, so people would share views on Twitter. That's what I'm doing as well. But you can also go to my old blog to learn about a few things that I've been thinking about. Again, some classical things in econometrics that I'm discussing there. Now, this was already the introduction. The next video is going to be on the first part of this course.